We recently witnessed a major downtrend in the market happen, and this actually caused a lot of panic. Now, usually we do see this type of panic on any sharp correction in the market. You can call it a crash, you can call it a correction, a pullback, whatever. Basically, it was a shallow pullback. It wasn't anything too crazy. It did cause altcoins to lose like 10 to 15 to even 20% on the chart. And some people did overreact to it. A lot of people were kind of concerned. And even today, as you guys do look at the market, we could see that recovery in place. Some of these altcoins are up 10+%, 20+% as well. The big one right now, HBAR SUI, they're both up, 10%, also 7.3%. XLM and XRP not really up that crazy of amount. In fact, I think XRP is actually still down a little bit. Yeah, XRP is down, or it's actually at 0%. So it's breaking even right now. XLM up 2.8%, so nothing too crazy there, but HBAR and SUI definitely having a nice little recovery here, and of course other altcoins too. On the hourly, we're still pretty red here, nothing too crazy on the hourly, but on the week, on the month, on the year, and even on the daily, we're all green across the board, and that's because we have been witnessing a lot of great gains. Now, a lot of people are wondering, why did we have that major sell-off? Well, just like I said, we did reset the sentiment. In fact, we also liquidated a lot of, late longs, because again, a lot of people will start to, long the market too late. They'll long it when euphoria is hitting the market and where greed is extremely high, and that leads to liquidations, and that cascades the market. So most of this was driven by $950 million in liquidations, which did affect 310,000 traders. Most of this was targeting Ethereum and XRP as well, which is also why we watched as XRP did have that cascade on the week. It's actually down 9.2%. I do believe that we will recover in a big way on XRP, but the main thing that I'm actually watching here is Ethereum, and it's because if we look at the last month, Ethereum is up 50+% compared to Bitcoin's 8.8%. This is a very significant outperformance. So Ethereum is now starting to outperform Bitcoin in a big way. And I did mention in the live stream earlier today that we are basically confirming phase 2. Phase 2 is here, where Ethereum is starting to lead the way, which we'll talk about in depth here in a moment. But I actually want to go over the market itself. Let me refresh everything so we could see that the market cap for crypto is now in the green. We could see HBAR up 10+%. It's the number one trending coin here because, again, HBAR is extremely bullish off of the lows. We'll talk more so about HBAR in a moment, but altcoin season is also back to 40+, which we love to see. And I did mention in the live stream earlier today, and I'm actually just going to show you guys this real quick because I do want to address this. So I want to go over the volume on the 30-day, the 7-day, and also on the 24-hour span here. And I also want to actually get market cap here as well because I just want to compare a few things. I want to go over Bitcoin and Ethereum. So Bitcoin and Ethereum. Ethereum's market cap, $450 billion compared to Bitcoin's $2.3 trillion market cap. This is significant to note because of the volume. So in the last 24 hours, we could see that Ethereum has about almost $40 billion in volume compared to Bitcoin's $97 billion. It's not really that close. On the 7-day, it's also kind of the same, $290 billion versus $665, almost $666 billion. But then on the 30-day, we see 1.5 trillion compared to 2.1 trillion. This is showing us that Ethereum is starting to catch up to Bitcoin in terms of demand. And this is what I noted in the live stream as well, because if we're thinking about phase 2 of the cycle, it's when Ethereum really starts to outperform Bitcoin. I've also been watching and I've been comparing Bitcoin to Ethereum in just the lower time frame structure here, in like the 7-day, even in the month. And we could see that Ethereum is now catching up in a big way to Bitcoin. The question here is, do we start to really ramp up on Ethereum to catch up to Bitcoin on the 1 year? I believe that we do. In fact, even when we compare Ethereum to Bitcoin on the all-time chart, obviously, yes, Ethereum has been outperforming, Bitcoin on the all-time. But the main thing that I'm looking at here is the candles, right? I'm going back to 2021 on Ethereum, and I did mention this in the live stream as well when we looked at Bitcoin on the all-time chart too. If we go side to side here, we could see that Ethereum has a lot of catching up to do to that 2021 high, and this will lead to altcoins also going parabolic. And I'll address that here in a moment. But this is what Ethereum or Hedera looks like on the 1 day. This is SUI on the 1 day. This is XLM on the 1 day, and this is XRP on the 1 day. All of these are starting to turn green. XRP barely, but again, we are now green on the daily. But HBAR is the big winner, up 10+%. We could actually see it breaking back to the upside off of those lows. We did wick down to as low as like 23 cents almost. So again, good reaction off of the lows. We did find a lot of support above some of these lows as well, which is very good to see. SUI, in terms of, we're looking at the 1 month here. So in terms of like the 1 month, SUI is just still trying to fight against that resistance, trying to break out. This is what the 1 year looks like. We're still at that higher time frame resistance. So we really want to get a big break above these levels here to confirm that breakout and rally back to the 2024 highs. Outside of that, XLM, XLM showing some strength today, only up about almost 3%, but this is what the 1 month looks like. This is what the 1 year looks like. Again, we're also fighting that higher time frame resistance going back to January before we get to those 2024 highs of like 63.5 cents. XRP, again, on the 1 month, just kind of trailing along here, nothing too crazy. We're still, looking at that resistance level of like $3.40. We need to really break over that. We are finding some support around the previous highs, which is very good to see on XRP. And this is exactly what we want to see on these charts. We want to see strength against the previous highs. We want to, really kind of build a floor before we get that big push back to the upside to retarget those higher time frame resistance levels. Because again, the more that we have a floor formed here, the more that we actually have that support to hold on to if we reject again off of that higher time frame resistance. But outside of that, let's actually talk a little bit more about what's happening with liquidity. So number one, with Ethereum, let's go back to the beginning of July, because I mentioned back in the beginning of July that the short squeeze will be historical and it will lead to altcoins also going absolutely parabolic. This is because Ethereum was the most short, crypto essentially at that time. We have speculators have built one of the largest short Ethereum futures positions in history. This is in the history of Ethereum. So we knew that Ethereum was going to have that run up. But guess what? This still remains in question. There's still a lot of shorts against Ethereum here, which means if we start to see Ethereum break over like the 4K region, because this is where most of those leveraged trades actually are in terms of those shorts, that means that Ethereum, once it breaks 4K, it could quickly teleport to 5K plus, which would be a new all-time high, which would be price discovery. When we think about that, we also look at liquidity happening around the world, more so the M2 supplies. We have here from Ted Pillows, US M2 supply is back above $22 trillion. Japan, China, and the EU M2 supply are hitting new highs, but Ethereum is still 26% below its 2021 all-time high. You're not prepared for the ETH rally. And no, I actually don't think that people are, prepared for the ETH rally. When we actually look at the setup here, right? Liquidity is flooding the global system. And we already noticed that the Fed is also injecting liquidity. That's why stocks continue to make all-time highs. It's only a matter of time until Ethereum breaks over these levels and starts to really surge in value. And like I said, we are in phase 2, right? We know that we're in phase 2 at this point because Ethereum is outperforming Bitcoin ETFs. Don't believe me? It's okay. You don't have to. Here we actually have the facts. Ethereum ETF inflows have been going parabolic recently. They have actually flipped Bitcoin, which means we're now at that phase 2 level. It's only a matter of time until mainstream media catches this and starts talking about it. Now, if we're thinking about this, let's go back to my post over here, right? I said that altcoins are also going to go absolutely parabolic. It's because they follow Ethereum. They are the next in line here. We're going to start to see money trickle from Ethereum into large caps. And think about this. We still have ETFs for altcoins that have yet to go live and get approved. That's going to be the next big catalyst for altcoins. But also in terms of Ethereum, okay? Here we have Ethereum supply squeeze is 32 to 1. Since May, Ethereum ETF demand has outpaced new supply by 32 times. Corporates, institutions, and funds are hoarding Ethereum. This is how a supply shock starts. And yeah, if we do see this, I'm not even, like, when we think about Ethereum, this could be the most bullish setup in history of Ethereum. We still have those shorts in place, and we're now starting to see the demand getting eaten alive at a time where Ethereum is about to break out against macro resistance, which could quickly teleport it to 5K plus to a new all-time high into price discovery at the same exact time that liquidity is flooding the system. I don't think that we've ever had an environment this bullish ever. This is why I keep saying to everyone, it's not just about what we see on a day-to-day basis in price action. Look behind the price action. What's actually going on? I mentioned this even leading into July, right? I said that July was going to be a huge month for crypto. Why did we know that July was going to be a huge month for crypto? Was it just a guess? No, we were looking at the M2 supply. In May, we already noticed that the M2 supply increased drastically. Bitcoin made a new all-time high in May. Then we consolidated in June. The entire month of June up until the end of June was pretty boring. We knew that a breakout was going to happen. Now, I called for altcoins to go crazy in July back in April. The reason why I called that back in April was because of the time frame on the Bitcoin dominance chart. So the entire environment leading into July, from April all the way up to the end of June, was already extremely bullish. And April was when we bottomed out completely. Now, when we think about what's happening here, the structure is still extremely bullish going into August. We might consolidate just for a little while longer, maybe a week or two, but I do think that we're probably going to see a parabolic rise across the board, and this recovery will be the start of that. So right now, as we really kind of watch as the hourly, the daily, the weekly, the monthly, and all of it turns green, this upcoming week with FOMC week as well, things can get very exciting very fast. And some of these altcoins that are already showing us very large amounts of strength off of the lows should be at like the top of the list for altcoins to be watching on this next big break. But I do believe that we're getting closer to alt season than ever before, and phase 2 is officially here. I think that it's safe to say that we are now in phase 2, considering the fact that Ethereum against Bitcoin, I mean, we're up 50+% in the last month. Ethereum ETFs are now outperforming Bitcoin ETFs, which is a huge sign. Like, this is a huge signal that is now flashing that's going to tell us, guess what? Ethereum demand is quickly outpacing Bitcoin now. And wait until mainstream media catches this. We are going to see this all over the news, probably next week, I would say, right? They're going to be talking about Ethereum quite a bit next week. And this is going to lead the retail flood into Ethereum, which will then quickly, lead into altcoins, and then we'll have our alt season. So the environment right now around crypto, I'm very excited about what's to come. I think that almost no one is prepared for what's about to happen. And this is the best time to be locked in and focused on what's going on behind price action, not just getting, concerned about pullbacks or corrections or anything like that. No, it's time to lock in and really just focus on the big money moving in. The big money is moving into Ethereum, which means that we are in phase 2 officially. Next up is altcoins and alt season. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely will like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.